is a fireman switch not a fireman switch? Last month we said this was a fireman's switch, which seemed reasonable because that is literally what it says on the front. Then we received a phone call from the Association for Petroleum and Explosives Administration. They're the people who write the guidance for petrol filling stations. And when an organisation with the word explosives in its name calls to correct you, you listen. They told us we'd made a mistake, and once you understand what we missed, the difference becomes obvious. Here's what we got wrong. On a petrol filling station, you may find two red and yellow switches. They use the same colour scheme, a red operating handle on a yellow background. They can be similar in shape and may even be mounted in similar positions on the outside of the building, but they are not the same device. They don't perform the same function and they are governed by entirely different requirements. Confuse the two on an installation and you could have a serious compliance problem. To understand why the mistake is so easy to make, we need to go back a few years. Picture the classic petrol station forecourt, a large illuminated canopy with neon tubing running around its edge, glowing red or white against the night sky. That was high voltage discharge lighting. It needed its own isolating switch so the fire service could shut it down without searching for the distribution board. The switch had to be installed in a conspicuous external position. It was coloured red with its on and off positions clearly visible from the ground, and with the off at the top. That was the fireman's switch. Its purpose and operation are defined in BS 7671, and on a filling station its job was typically to isolate the high voltage neon canopy lighting. But neon has now largely disappeared. Modern forecourts use LED lighting, which doesn't require the same high voltage firefighter's isolating switch. So on an older forecourt you might still find a genuine fireman switch controlling legacy signage. On a modern forecourt there may not be a fireman switch at all, but there will still be a red and yellow emergency switch, and it can look almost identical. It just isn't a fireman switch. If learning from our mistakes so you don't make them is useful, then be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on content like this. The other device is the emergency switching device, and here's the first important distinction. This one isn't specifically for the fire service. It's provided so that anyone on the forecourt can operate it. A driver, a member of staff or a bystander must be able to shut down the fuel dispensing equipment immediately in an emergency. A fuel spill, a damaged hose, a vehicle striking a dispenser, whatever it is, they need to reach that switch immediately without having to think about it. That's why its maximum installation height is 2 meters, not 2.75 meters. The person operating it may need to reach it right now in a panic without waiting for the fire service to arrive. It must also be very visible from every fuel dispensing position on the site. That means a larger forecourt may need several emergency switches. However, many are required to ensure that that one is clearly visible from every pump. From an electrical point of view, this is where the requirements become particularly specific. The emergency switching device doesn't just disconnect the electrical supply to the pump. It must disconnect the electrical supplies associated with the fuel dispensing equipment, including the relevant power and data circuits. If the dispensers contain loudspeakers, those must also be disconnected. And here's a detail that really matters when designing the control system. Resetting the emergency switching device must not by itself restore the supply. Restoration must require a separate manual action from inside the building, carried out by an authorized person. That reset must be inaccessible to anyone who shouldn't be operating it, and that's a deliberate safety requirement. And here's a detail that really matters when designing the control system. Resetting the emergency switching device must not by itself restore the supply. Restoration must require a separate manual action from inside the building, carried out by an authorized person. That reset must be inaccessible to anyone who shouldn't be operating it. That's a deliberate safety requirement. If you work on filling stations regularly, you'll probably know all of this. But the important point isn't any one of these requirements, it's that the emergency switching device has its own specific purpose and rules. It is not a fireman switch, even if someone has fitted a label saying that it is. And even the latest developments on filling stations can catch experienced installers out. If EV chargers are added to forecourts or close by, they are covered by the emergency switching requirements as well. The emergency switching system must therefore disconnect the EV charging equipment alongside the fuel dispensing equipment. This is a perfect example of what happens at the boundary between two different sets of requirements, and that's exactly where easy mistakes get made. If you work on petrol filling stations, the APEA Blue Book provides guidance covering their design, construction, modification, maintenance and decommissioning. And if you're working on another type of installation that may require a genuine fireman switch, check out the video we remade with sepia and QDIS to learn about some of the key design features and other requirements contained in BS 7671. Just ignore almost everything we said in it about petrol filling stations.